Good morning. There's some slightly unsettling news today on the Telegram channels posted both by Ukrainians and Russians and turning up in Twitter that there may have been two separate drone attacks on nuclear power plants in Russia. One being a report has been attacked of a drone strike in Kurchatov in the Kursk region, and of another one in Novovoronezka, where the Novovoronezka Nuclear Power Plant is. Now, the reports are very early on these. The one in Kursk, there appears to be a little bit more information at the moment, but what we have seen so far is there is some indirect footage of an explosion. This seemed to occur at night time. There is some footage of explosion going off, reportedly having been geolocated to the area of Kurchatov in Kursk. Now, the area or small city of Kurchatov actually borders onto a lake and the area where the Kursk Nuclear Power Plant is. There's about a kilometre in distance. Now, I don't know where in Kurchatov the drone struck, but regardless, this would seem to have been an attack launched upon the nuclear power plant. The distance from Kursk to Ukraine is not long at all. To get into the Kursk region from Ukraine, it borders the Kharkiv region of Ukraine. If you go east of Kiev towards Sumy is then very close to Kursk, the center of Kursk. It's probably about 100 kilometers from Sumy to Kursk. So even it's a little closer. It might be 80 kilometers to Kurchatov, to the nuclear power plant. The Novovoronezka power plant is probably a little further. It's maybe 150 kilometers away from Kharkiv. So it's entirely possible that these two attacks have been launched from Ukraine. The reporting of the Kursk one indicates that air defense was operated in the area, and it's not clear if that may have shot the drone down, but there are also some photographs starting to emerge now that this may have been a Ukrainian drone with some pictures of busted metal or material left. One report I saw perhaps indicating that part of the turbine assembly which drove the small jet in the powered this drone may have been a kingtech K210 turbine, where if you research those, they do look like they're a small turbine that could be used to launch a small autonomous drone. So we're not talking about a giant drone here like an American Reaper or Global Hawk or anything like that. This is a much smaller, probably something that a man could lift on quite easily on their own. However, this is unsettling and reckless behavior if this is, as it appears at this stage to be, likely launched from somewhere in Ukraine. Now, there have been threats, if we can call them that, I suppose threats, or hints and allegations from Zelensky and the Ukrainian government that Russia was going to make an attack on the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. However, this seemed to be refuted not only by some satellite imagery, which showed nothing happening there of the nature that was being described by Zelensky, but also by the International Atomic Energy Association, who have monitors located there, and those people who were monitoring the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant indicated they saw no evidence of the reactors being mined. There is a report today I've just seen from Patrick Lancaster that he's actually travelled to the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant to try to provide some information about what it's actually looking like and happening there. That will be interesting. That's just coming out. If you're watching this now, then that should be coming out later today on YouTube and on the other channels that Patrick broadcasts onto. Given that history, and what I think a lot of people have concluded is that if if Zelensky and Ukraine were not in fact planning on attempting a false flag operation, that they were at least threatening or alluding to that to perhaps gain some leverage against the West and perhaps to try to garner some further support at NATO, the NATO summit in Vilnius, which is just completed. Now, the outcome of the NATO summit for Ukraine has been disappointing. There was no admission for Ukraine to NATO. There has been no provision of a timetable for the admission of Ukraine to NATO. There has not been a membership action plan announced. In fact, it has been stated that there won't be a membership action plan for NATO. So presently, Ukraine appears to have gone backwards from 2008, when the original announcement was made that Ukraine would be invited in to join NATO in Bucharest in 2008. It almost seems as though Ukraine have gone backwards since that time. But so given that situation, one does wonder if perhaps Ukrainians, out of frustration, may now be lashing out and attempting to cause some sort of nuclear incident within the boundaries of Russia. So just to be clear here, these two sites in Kursk and Voronezh, the Novovoronezka Nuclear Power Plant, these are both located within Russia's existing borders. These aren't in the areas of Ukraine. For now, this is all the information I have on this one, so I will report back on this later on once I learn more. But this will be something which, if it is proven to be an attack by the Ukrainians against these Russian nuclear power plants, is only going to inflame the situation. I would suggest this has probably been performed to try to coax some escalation from Russia, and an attempt to infuriate Russia and get them to overreact, and then cause and reach too far, so that Ukraine or Zelensky can then look to NATO and say, look, they've retaliated, they've done something over the top. The Russians have gone too far with this response. We need to get involved. Anyhow, I'll leave that for there now. Please, if you like this, subscribe, give it a like, and there'll be more coming soon.